I'm Alexey, Sidorenko, and Teplitsa helps Russian NGOs with technology. But we do also observe what is happening. And I'll try to explain to you what the hell is happening with foreign agents in Russia and why you should be worried about it. So, civic education, human rights, constitutional rights and freedoms, election observation, gender activism, anti-corruption, LGBT issues, and combating homophobia, environmental advocacy, historical memory, combating torture, media development, government accountability, freedom of information. Please raise your hands if your organization have ever did anything in these fields. Thank you very much. Now, all these fields and activities in Russia can get you into trouble. There are 52 organizations nowadays that do exactly these things, that are labeled as foreign agents. There is a registry down there. They even did want to make an open data set of foreign agents organizations. So you would probably think that's another crazy thing that happens in the big country to the east. Well, maybe so. I'll try to explain that it might not be this clear. So after post-election protests in 2011-2012, within 20 days, the law was drafted, passed, and signed in July 2012. Originally, it was planned that the organizations would voluntarily sign up to be foreign agents, or the court would force them to do. It didn't work out well. So in 2014, they changed it so that foreign agent label would be assigned unilaterally by the Ministry of Justice. And unfortunately, right now, when we speak of Russia, Ministry of Justice goes in braces. So, in order to fulfill and to be a foreign agent, your NGO has to receive money from abroad, and NGO has to conduct political activity. I will not ask you how many of you receive money from abroad, because this is a bad question, and I will explain why. Okay, so what is a political activity then? I tried to look up in the dictionary. Is it getting and keeping power in government, the art or science of government, political actions, or competition? Well, the Russian government or the Russian lawmakers, you can't exactly distinguish between those two, say that it's a very broad definition. It's not just influencing the actions and policies of a government, it's also influencing public opinion of those policies. So not just you can't say to the government official that he or she did wrong, you can't also say the same thing to the public. What does it mean in practice? Well, please raise your hands if you ever gave a comment, a public comment on any law in your country. Thank you. Please raise your hands if you ever run a roundtable or a public event in your country. Did you screen a lecture or a roundtable? Thank you very much. That right now there are 70 reasons, 70 documented reasons that Ministry of Justice in Russia considers to be the reason for political activity. Indeed, there is a fan of Bob Marley there. You remember, Bob Marley said everything is political. Well, indeed. Why it's so bad then? Okay, there could be Bob Marley or Thomas Mann, if you prefer. Fans there. Well, there are several problems. First of all, the language. You see, after the Second World War, there was such thing as Cold War, and part of it was all kinds of interesting movies about gray, shady people in long raincoats, in hats, and usually with some strange agenda. So apparently in Russian, and I'm not sure how many of you speak Russian, but it usually would mean like something like this. It's kind of like somewhere in between James Bond, in between Uncle Sam, and definitely with a suitcase of money. Say this to the underpaid people who struggle for our rights and are constantly exposed to the searches and arrests. Well, definitely you wouldn't like the language like this. Second thing, according to the new law, you have to label yourself. You would have to label everything what you do or run and say it all the time that you are a foreign agent. So of course the first reaction was, well, it's not a gamification, unfortunately. That's a Nazi concentration camp badges. And one of them is a red triangle that used to sign the political prisoners, social democrats, socialists, anarchists, communists, Freemasons. Well, imagine that you would have to put a red triangle on any of your publications. I made some analysis to make your imagination work. Imagine Amnesty International. So, well, definitely public opinion, lots of stuff, funded. Well, it's not funded from Russia. Foreign agent. Declaration of Rights of Man and the Citizen. In France, imagine, inspired by a Swiss citizen, drafted by an American citizen, and introduced by French expat. Polish example, well, Kultura magazine, the very influential magazine that influenced the hearts and minds of Polish intelligentsia for 5 decades. Well, definitely public opinion influenced and published in Paris. Okay, so you have the imagination working. So reporting, it's not just labeling. Reporting, you have, in addition to all kinds of crazy bureaucratia, you as an NGO have to write, add to this. Obligatory annual audit. Separate accounting for foreign grants and for the local grants if you run one. Personal information on management every 6 months, and documents that describe aim of your spending and full financial documentation 3 months. So imagine that you have to account for as much as you actually do. For any NGO person that I've met, well, I mean, like, NGO people become NGO people because they want to do something, because they want to change something, and not because they want to fill in the reports. This does not just end with this. There are severe fines, from $2,000 to $6,000 for organization leaders, or doesn't mean anything basically to anyone. No one knows what it means, or. It just to police or the prosecutor's office or to the court to decide. So average salary is $653. But there is not just this. It's an entry point. Here's a real story. Right now, the election observer from Samara owes the government because they retroactively counted her grant as an income, so she now has to pay retroactively, I repeat, $44,000 in addition to $6,000, the highest fine for her organization that dared to observe the elections. So if you think that it's suspiciously not good, I might have a few examples more for you. And I'm a bit emotional. Just in order to keep everything in line, I would say that this F word means fundamentally. Well, first of all, if you didn't feel that there is something wrong with it, it's just against the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Take any article from 18 to 20, and particularly 20, and it violates it. There might be, second reason, there might be no legal NGOs left soon in Russia. Here's the graph, how it progresses, where it goes. Well, you might say, okay, we don't care about the NGOs in Russia. Let them all, go, gone, in hell. We don't care. We're in Europe. We are different. Really? Any idea who is the author of this quote? Come on, please. Yes! And it's, even Poland is not bordering with Hungary. We know that in Poland there are a big political party that simply likes Orban very much. Well, yes, and you know, like who knows who comes next? We've heard about crazy stuff, and I'm like in Azerbaijan. We've heard about really worrisome stuff in the Balkans. You know, good ideas spread well, but the bad ideas and the bad argumentation even better. We need to think about it. So already discriminate NGOs are Azerbaijan, Mexico, Pakistan, Sudan, Venezuela. About to discriminate are Bangladesh, Egypt, Malaysia, and Nigeria. You know, who knows who comes next? But I'd like to end it in my, I guess, most personal argument is that isolationist mindset that actually says that all your ideas or your will to change something comes from somewhere from outside, it undermines the whole idea of the human progress. Actually, you know, there is a popular Russian meme, there is a picture of Neanderthal reconstructed, and it says, well, your grandparents and your grandparents is a common rhetoric action in the Russian internet discussion style. Didn't fight with early humans, Cro-Magnons, just that you could give up hunting and gathering. And if we would not change, and back in the age of like back 40,000 years ago, no one, there was no other country to push us stop hunting and gathering, you know. So I'd like here, so this comes the idea that actually there are some changes that we want to make that are not inspired by some strange government. Here's the quote. Those who can read Russian can read that it's more emotional that I will translate it. And Maxim is a software developer. He's not a political activist. So he said, but he used to be one. So he said, Green NGOs is a collection of clever and honest people, and I worked there for 6 years. Yes, they try to influence the government policy. But what's the news? It's a bad organization that doesn't try to do that. Because our policies suck. So shoot us all. And I do not have much to add to this. Only one thing, that the definition of foreign agents is just partly right. It's partly right because it has the word agent that derives from agency, and what we say from human agency, that it's capacity for humans to make choices. And I'm sure that even the most dysfunctional, even the most lazy NGO increases the number of our choices, the choices for our kids and the choices for the future generations. But the problem is, for the Russian Ministry of Justice, that I can say, is that there is no such thing as foreign human agency. It's within us. It's why we do something, why we want to change something. It's not inspired by anyone else. Let's not forget about it. Thank you very much.